Henley. Welcome to People in Politics.
Thank you for having me.
So why are you running for governor?
Well, when Bear Perdue made a decision that she wasn't going to run for re-election, I saw it as an opportunity for me to give back to the community what I received. And basically, I definitely have the experience to do the job as governor. I've got over 22 years of management and technical experience fighting fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement.
And where does that experience come from?
Well, I am a retired diplomat from the U.S. Department of State, and I was an Inspector General Auditor there. So that's the federal government in Washington, D.C.
Is this your first foray into elective politics?
Well, it is my first time ever running for an elected position such as this, but I ran for state representative about almost 3 years ago.
Well, tell us how you plan to distinguish yourself amongst the Democratic primary field. You've got 5 opponents.
Well, I distinguish myself based on my managerial and technical experience. I have over 22 years experience managing budgets 3 times the size of North Carolina. And also what I'm telling people is that we need to really start to look at North Carolina as though it is a business, and it really is. And the state of North Carolina is into the business of taking our tax dollars and putting them hopefully where they're supposed to be. But we know that that's not necessarily happening now. We know we have a problem with the economic condition. Jobs are hard to find, and the education system is badly broken. And I've got, and to directly answer your question, I've got the experience to actually go in and look at that budget, find areas that need to be cut or tweaked a little bit, and find cost savings in various areas within the budget. I have never conducted a review or looked at any budget and didn't find areas for improvement or cost savings. And that's what North Carolina needs now. We need a manager of the tax dollars, and that's what separates me from the other candidates. I've got that experience. And when people basically ask me, well, Ms. Henley, do you have political experience? I say no. It's political experience that got us in the position that we're in today. Now, if you want to look at it like this, you can. I've got political experience per se, auditing and investigating political appointees. I know where the skeletons are, and I know how to actually go in and communicate with them. And it's all about the art of negotiation as well. So I have the ability to work with the legislators on both sides of the table. And I do it very well, and I'm very effective with that.
Ms. Henley, your message is one that at least typically we would hear from someone who identifies as a Republican. Where do you fit within the Democratic Party spectrum? As you know, some Democrats are more to the left, others are more conservative. Where do you fit in the spectrum?
Well, I am definitely a Democrat. I'm born and raised a Democrat. And I guess I'm going to answer your question and say that maybe the reason why, I don't know why, but I want you to tell me why you see that are you saying that I'm more on the Republican side, or I don't really understand what you're saying, because I'm definitely a Democrat, but where I am is I am a candidate that wants to serve all the people without any bias or without, and I'm noticing that, a few of the candidates, they are really trying to, take sides either way, and I'm saying that I'm for what's right. I am here to represent all the people regardless to what their party affiliations are. And so if you see that, that's really where we need to be. But I am a Democrat.
Let's talk about the high unemployment rate in North Carolina. As you know, it's very high. It has been for a long time, and there's a lot of people hurting across the state. What would you do as North Carolina governor to try to jumpstart job creation and lead us back to prosperity?
Well, it's all about the economy and getting the economy back on track and making sure that we are using the tax dollars that we have effectively. And Donna, I'm always going to go back to the use of our tax dollars because that's really what's important. So the first thing that I will do is look at the budget and make sure that we are spending the money effectively. And also I plan to initiate a buy local act. And what that buy local act will do, it will mimic the buy local act at the federal level, and it will encourage government, and in some cases maybe force government, to actually buy goods and services right here in North Carolina before we go outside of North Carolina and solicit those various services and goods. And that will help to bolster the economy as well, because when you're starting to focus in on the businesses that are here, these businesses will have more money to operate, and therefore they will be able to bring in more jobs right here in North Carolina before we start to bring in the larger businesses.
Let's talk about gas prices, another issue facing families in our state. As governor, would you try to enact policies, or could you enact policies that would affect the price of gas?
Well, I want to say this. Gas is a huge problem for a lot of people, the prices of gas. And a lot of my constituents, people that I'm talking to, we're all complaining about the fact that the gas prices can go up whenever you know they need to, per se. And we need to definitely put some controls in place to counter that. So whatever there's an opportunity for us to do a better job of actually monitoring the big gas companies or whatever, that's exactly what we need to do. And I have to say this, you know, coming from the government myself at the federal level, I know that a lot of the government employees and the people who are in place to actually to effect change is in relation to the gas prices going up. They don't feel it as much as the local people do, the people who are non-government, because most government employees during their work hours, they get free gas. They get gas based on our tax dollars that are as a result of our tax dollars being paid into the system. So of course I would look at various opportunities to do that.
Another energy issue that is now gaining a lot of focus in North Carolina has to do with fracking and the extraction of shale oil deposits. Do you support or oppose the process of fracking?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm all for North Carolina being independent. The U.S., not just North Carolina, is being independent of the larger oil conglomerates or what have you. And I'm for making sure that we get the natural resources that we need. But as far as fracking, we really need to look at several different elements of it before anyone can really, and myself, before I can make a firm call on whether I'm for or against it. Number one, I'd like to know how environmentally safe it is, and then I'd like to look at the cost effectiveness of it, where we're going to be actually doing the drilling. There's quite a few questions that have to be answered. And I'd also like to talk to some of the major companies who would be in place to actually do the drilling and find out what is their methodology, how do they plan to do that. Because we want to be safe first, we want to be economically correct, and then we want to move forward and make decisions on, is this going to work for North Carolina especially. But we do need to look into that quite aggressively.
What about offshore drilling?
The same thing. You know, I believe that we've really got to look at how safe it is economically, how cost effective it is, and talk to some of the companies who are really going to be doing the work and get with them. We need to come to the round table and make a decision on that. So I don't think anyone really should be making a hardcore decision on it without looking at the details. And I'm a detail-oriented person, and I want to make good decisions that works for all of North Carolina and not just a few.
Ms. Henley, if you were elected governor, you were a Democrat, there's the possibility that the lieutenant governor might be a Republican. There's also the possibility that the legislature could continue to be controlled by Republicans. How would you manage to work with the opposing party?
Well, I think that's one of the main issues that we as elected officials or if elected into office, that we need to be able to deal with anyone, regardless of party affiliation. And that can be a hindrance to us being able to do our job as a governor. A governor's responsibility is to basically execute the law. And so for me, whether a person is Republican or Democrat or independent or whoever, we need to work together. And I always say I focus in on the program and not the personality. And you won't go wrong with that.
Let's talk about the May 8th primary ballot. As you know, in addition to the primary votes for governor, there will be a constitutional amendment on the ballot, the marriage amendment, which would define marriage in our Constitution as between one man and one woman. Do you support or oppose that amendment?
Well, this is what and again, Donna, I'm saying that we as governors need to really not put our personal opinions into the decision-making process. Of course, I have a personal opinion about a lot of various things, and especially Amendment 1, and also several other things. But as governor, I can't allow myself to go into a situation where I'm making a biased decision about this or that. I have to be in the middle with that and say that whatever the taxpayers decide on, I will enforce it with a strong arm. Politics should not come into play when on May 8th, we will vote on that Amendment 1. And whatever the taxpayers decide, that's what I will move forward on. I don't like to discriminate against anyone. And if I make a decision, that's what I would be doing. And a part of my platform is, I'm out there saying that we need to let the taxpayers make the decision on what you all want, and then I will execute that.
Ms. Henley, education has been a flashpoint in this state between Democrats and Republicans, not only in the legislature, but Governor Perdue has been speaking out about what she believes is a low level of education funding. Where do you come down on that? Is North Carolina funding public education at an appropriate level or not?
Absolutely not. And I've been out there talking to teachers, the students, the parents, and we all know that education is not being properly funded. And that's another reason why, Don, I go back to the budget and my ability to be able to look at that budget and find cost savings. And another thing that really bothers me is the fact that every time we need money, the issue comes forward, we need to increase taxes. And my message is, let us not increase any taxes or even discuss it until we make sure that we're using the money that's in place effectively and properly. And so, my message is, of course not. The education system is in bad need of repair. And one of the first things that I will do is really audit that, initiate some various reviews of that education budget. It really needs to be done. Teachers need to be paid properly based on their experience, and their retirement system really needs to be funded properly as well. We need to do all that we can for the education system. That is the core of North Carolina, the educators.
Ms. Henley, where can people find out more information about you and your run for governor?
My website is thepeoplescandidate.org.
All right, Gardenia Henley has been our guest. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us here on People in Politics.
Thank you very much for having me.